Good afternoon, this is Granny Fisher, and today I'm filming inside because it's turned cold. It got cold and windy after Hurricane Zeta came through, and they're forecasting some temperatures at night close to freezing, so this will be an early winter, I guess. They've already had some record-setting cold in the upper plains. I think a place in Montana set the record for having the earliest minus 30-degree temperatures since 1916. That cold front is what pushed the hurricane right out of the New Orleans area. My daughter lives down there, and she said they're out of power and they're expecting them to be out of power for up to 10 days. So she was thankful that she took my advice on getting a gas stove when she bought a house, and took her father's advice of getting a generator earlier this year when the first couple of hurricanes dodged around New Orleans. So they're set. They had plenty of groceries put up. They had a gas stove to cook on and a stovetop coffee pot, and they have a generator to run their refrigerator. So they're doing okay. They may be out of power for a few days though. But that front pushed the hurricane through fast. It came through so fast, and behind it is this cold air. So we're expecting some early frost. I want to talk to you today about the election, and there's a lot of chatter online and among people I know that there may be a civil war as a result of this election. And whether there is or not, we have a precedent this year of people in this country that are willing to resort to violence, hurting other people, threatening other people, burning buildings, looting stores. These are unprincipled rioters that are destroying their own cities, or maybe even traveling across the country to destroy somebody else's city. They've already been doing it this year in the United States. And it's quite possible they might use the election as an excuse to do it some more. So what I'm going to give you today is a few words of advice on how to prep for the election. The election is Tuesday, so I'm going to post this video a little early this week. Normally I post on Monday afternoon. I'll put this one up on either Saturday or Sunday. So if you're watching it, you probably said, why is she on so early? But that's why. I wanted to get the word out a little early ahead of the election. Probably should have said something a couple of weeks ago, but I was waiting to see how things played out. You need food. You need to get as much food as you can, put up in your cabinets. If possible, have 2 months worth of food and other necessary supplies put up. There's a real risk of riots in the metropolitan areas. And even if you live in a rural area or a small town, it could impact you, because during the riots earlier this year, a lot of the truckers refused to go into cities, especially where the police had been defunded, because they didn't feel it was safe for them. If the truckers refused to go into the cities, then they are not available to carry the supplies from the warehouses out to the smaller towns. And so your own Walmart, your own Save-A-Lot, your own Food City might end up being short on a lot of the things that you need. You could face some real shortages and empty shelves because the supply chain becomes disrupted. Think in terms of, if there's a major lockdown and I have to stay in my house for 2 months, what do I need? Now, there may or may not be lockdowns. Probably if President Trump is in charge after the election and secure in his re-election, then he'll leave it entirely up to the governors what they want to do. And in our state, the governor has kind of taken a middle road. He's recommended people wear masks. He's recommended that everybody get tested. We've got free universal testing in every county in my state. And so anybody can get tested. I think that's why we have a very low death rate compared to cases in my state is because virtually everyone has gotten tested. And so you find those asymptomatic cases of COVID-19. So the death rate is much lower. I think ours is about 1.7%. That's not bad at all. It's a lot worse than the flu, but not as bad as Italy. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Prepare for the election as if you were going to stay in lockdown for 2 months without the ability to go anywhere. Make sure you gas up your car. If you have a gas can, fill up the gas can. If you don't have a gas can, go buy a gas can or two from Walmart, Ace Hardware, Lowe's. Go get you a gas can and fill it up so you'll have extra. Make sure you've got your prescriptions filled. Stock up on food. And my husband and I were discussing it this morning, and I said, well, I'm going to buy groceries on the cheap. And he said, no, don't do that. He said, get food that makes us feel good. If we get a lot of cheap stuff, if we get macaroni and cheese, spaghetti, white bread, we feel terrible. So we need more fiber, we need more fruit, more vegetables, more meat. And so I'll try and get the deals I can, but I'm still going to get things that we like to eat and that will make us feel good, that'll keep us healthy. Because it won't do us any good to, get a case of diarrhea or something when we're trying to stay in. We can't just run to the store and get something. So get food. You might want to, depending on your situation, put up some water. If you have a well that's dependent on electricity, you probably need to put up some water, get some bottled water just in case the power goes off. If you're on city water, then do whatever you think is wise. But make sure you have water, make sure you have food, make sure you get your prescriptions filled, get your cars gassed up, and get some extra gas on the side. Think about anything that you run to the store for in the middle of the month. What things do you run out of? If you have babies, do you run out of diapers in the middle of the month? Make sure you've got toilet paper, soap, shampoo, dishwashing liquid, laundry detergent, dog food if you need that, cleaning supplies, whatever it is that you need on a regular basis. No luxuries. Don't go out to eat while you're picking up your groceries. Try to hold your expenses to a minimum. Get the things you have to have, the things you really need, and put them back so that you will have them. And then plan on staying home. If you're going to vote, go vote on Tuesday. And then stay home and watch the election returns and see how it turns out. Now, those viewers that are in cities, if you're in a city or if you're in an apartment in a smaller city or large town, you may want to go on vacation, go visit some relatives in a rural area. Because there are people on the left that have said if their candidate loses, they're going to, quote, burn it all down. And while that might be empty threats, could easily be empty threats, a lot of that stuff never comes to pass. But they've been burning things down. I mean, if you look up Seattle or Portland or LA or Minneapolis or New York, go on Twitter or Reddit and off of the beaten path, so to speak, away from the mainstream media, and you'll see the riots. Go to Twitter and put in Philadelphia riots or Philadelphia looting, and look at what people have been doing. They spray paint the buildings, they burn down stores and houses, and they go in big stores like Walmart and just take everything out as if they had a right to it. Now, this is what we're facing if the election doesn't go their way. If there is a clear winner, if Donald Trump is a clear winner, or if Joe Biden is a clear winner, it would be better. But if it's close at all, there's liable to be a problem from the extreme left, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, people like that. Sometimes even the extreme right groups get involved, but mostly it's the left. So if you're in the city, you might want to go somewhere else. If you have family or friends in a rural area, just call them up and say, can I come visit for a few days to see how this plays out? Most people would understand. Take your food with you so they'll have extra. If you have to stay in the city, I recommend, if you're on a ground floor in a downtown urban area, I recommend you invest in a few sheets of plywood and prepare to board up your windows if the riots come to your community. If you're on an upper floor, make sure your fire escape works, and if you can, get a fire extinguisher, because these people have burned down buildings and they don't seem particular about whether anybody's in the building or not. If you can go somewhere else, go somewhere else. Okay, you also need personal protection. You need a firearm. You need to know how to use the firearm. If you don't have familiarity with the firearm, you may not want to get one because you might hurt yourself or a family member. But if you have a gun, take it out, unload it, clean it, reload it, know what's in it. You don't want to pick up a gun and it not have any ammo in it. On a previous video, I posted a link to AmmoSeek, which is a good place to locate ammunition right now while there's such a shortage. The shortage is because a lot of people are buying ammo. Okay, there's a reason for that. There's a sense among the people that we live in dangerous times. So take out your gun, unload it, clean it, reload it, make sure you know where it is. Don't leave it where children can get a hold of it, but put it close at hand, because when the time comes and you need protection, you need something that will fend off an attacker, you'll have it at hand. I'm sure most people watching this have seen something in the news in recent months about the McCluskeys, a couple in a city. And they were in an exclusive gated community, and the rioters came to their community, beat down the gate, the locked gate, and the McCluskeys were one of the first houses that they came to, and they just jumped up and grabbed their firearms and stood in their yard and told the people to go on down the road. Well, now the McCluskeys are facing charges for defending their property and themselves from violence, but also the rioters are facing charges too, so that's good. But the whole point is that the McCluskeys were not hurt and they were not killed. And that's the whole point of having some kind of a firearm to protect yourself, is these people did not beat in the door of the McCluskeys' house. They did not kill the McCluskeys' dog as they threatened to do. They did not burn anything or destroy anything or spray paint the building. They didn't hurt the McCluskeys. And the only reason none of that happened at all was because the McCluskeys were armed. So, you may never have to shoot another human being, and I pray that you don't. But to have a weapon convinces the attacker, the malcontent, the person that means you harm, to go somewhere else and find an easier victim. So be sure you're armed. Another thing you need to give attention to is heat. We're moving into winter. The cold weather has already arrived. So if you don't have an alternative heat source besides electric, you might need to borrow a little standalone heater, a little kerosene heater or something like that from someone else if you don't have one. And make sure you have the fuel necessary to run it, because it's going to get cold. And if you can't leave your house for a few weeks, for an extended period, you're going to need heat. If nothing else, break out the wool blankets or sleeping bags. Make sure you have something that will keep you warm if it turns really cold and you have no electric heat. Now, before the election, you need to charge up your electronic devices. So put a full charge on your cell phone, and if you have a handheld radio, put a full charge on that. Put a full charge on your tablet. And if you have CB radio, make sure you have some friends on there that know you might call them if you have a problem. Now, that's your communications. You need to have communications available. The internet may not be available. The cell service might go down. So just make sure you've got communications available. And while we're talking about communications, be sure to communicate with your friends, family, and neighbors. Talk to your family. Warn them that they need to stock up and prepare to stay home if there's a problem, especially if they're in an urban area. Talk to your local area friends, your network of people that you associate with, your friends and family that are close to you, and work out kind of a loose plan, of communication, a loose plan of mutual aid if there is a problem in your area. Even if it's just a real casual conversation about, well, they're talking like we might have a civil war. We hope there's not one. Maybe that's on the extreme chance of possibility, but prepare for the worst and hope for the best. You also need to talk to your neighbors if you have a good relationship with them. Just kind of casually say, they're talking like there might be some violence associated with the election, and if there is, you might want to prepare a little bit ahead of time. Make sure you got some food and supplies put up in case you can't go somewhere. Now, to back up what I'm saying about the violence, not only is there a lot of conversation about it online, I made a comment on a group that I'm on Facebook. It's a self-sufficiency group, and someone asked if we thought that there would be a civil war and what we thought the chances were, or were we just stocking up for economic reasons? And everybody had various comments. I got on there and said, yeah, because of possible civil unrest. These people have been shown themselves to resort to violence if they don't get their way, and it's quite possible they might do it for this election. And last count, I had about 40 likes on that comment, so apparently I wasn't the only one thinking that way. And one man posted a link to a website where a group was it was a very polished website, by the way, very nicely made. And the people were calling for riots if the election didn't go their way. They're even organizing a gathering in Washington, D.C., and they're going to have a cookout and all that kind of stuff. But they're basically saying if Donald Trump gets reelected, it was a fake election. They don't even foresee the possibility of him getting reelected legitimately. And I know a lot of people that are voting for Donald Trump. So these people are planning ahead, and they're communicating. They have lines of communication set up, and they're calling for people to go out to the streets and riot. And anything goes if they do that. I also know that the Portland police, the city police, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, and the State Patrol are calling all their personnel off of vacation time, and they're saying you can't have any days off during the week of the election, and they're putting everybody on overtime, and they're preparing in case there are riots. And I think they think it's very likely. I saw the press conference yesterday. So be aware that even the police are preparing for this. The Homeland Security has stationed 300 National Guard troops at a location in Alabama for the eastern half of the United States and 300 National Guard troops in Arizona for the western half of the United States as a fast response team in case there is some serious rioting associated with the election. And so this is not an idle speculation. It's quite a good possibility. So I'm telling you to stock up, prepare to stay home, make sure you've got everything you need to get by for 2 months. If you only need it for a week, then you've got extra for later. If you don't need it at all, then you've got more extra for later. But if you need it, you won't be able to go out and get it, especially if you're in the city. So I pray all of you be safe out there and take care of your families, take care of your property. Talk to God, even as you're making your grocery list. And I recommend you make a list before you go so you won't overlook anything and you won't buy anything unnecessary. As you make your grocery list, ask God, Lord Jesus, please help me make the right list. Help me choose the right things and help me get some deals on this so I can get everything I need. And God bless you. God bless America. This is Granny Fisher. I'll see you on the other side.